Well, good evening, Portage Bible Church. Pastor Ben here. It is Tuesday, July 20th for our post-sermon video regarding our passage this past Sunday on James chapter 1, verse 12. And I hope that was the message was a blessing to you, an encouragement. I know that for me, it was a challenge and preparation, but it was also very convicting for myself to think rightly about how we view trials, or having that eternal perspective that although they are a part of life, they are part of our walk with Christ, that God brings them into our life to conform us into the image of his son Jesus. The encouraging part is that they are not permanent. They're part of this world in which we live, but what we have to look forward to is far better, is far greater. And what the trials we endure in this life are preparing us for that day that we will always be with the Lord. So trials have a purpose. Trials have an end game. And trials are now making us more like Jesus Christ. And sometimes, or I should say most of the time, in the midst of the trials, it is hard to remember the truth of that. But what we have in this eternal perspective is being reminded that they are temporary. Even if they are years in this earth, they are temporary in light of eternity. And having that eternal perspective reminds us of that truth. But what a blessing to think about that, as we talked about, we as God's people are blessed when we endure these trials. That when we trust the Lord who's at work in us, that we know he's in control, whatever the difficulty or circumstances of life may bring. We know that we have the favor of the Lord when we trust and say, Lord, I may not understand. I don't understand. I want it to end, but I know you're good. I know you're in control. And I look forward to that day of recognition when we will receive that crown of glory for those of us who love the Lord. It should break our hearts when there are many who profess faith in Christ, and yet as soon as the trials of life come, they throw in the towel and walk away. And for one, it shows their faith probably wasn't real, but also it helps us to remember the seriousness of what is taking place. That oftentimes a lot of people want a comfortable Christianity, but a comfortable Christianity is not biblical Christianity. Through each and every day, each and every circumstance of life, the good and the bad. I want to remind you of shared with you on Sunday as you think about what was discussed. I encourage you to go back, read James chapter 1, verses 2 through 12, and this whole idea of counting it all joy in the midst of it. And I challenged you on Sunday as well, maybe spend some time in the book of Job. As James says there in chapter 5, consider the steadfastness of Job and God's love and his mercy through it all. That it's a hard book to understand, but it allows us into a perspective of how the Lord is at work in us as well, even during times of difficulty, to see how he's going to stretch us and to grow us. But I left you with these words on Sunday, and I want to leave you with them again. But as James tells us, count it all joy when you face trials of various kinds, knowing who is at work. Remain steadfast, because there is an end result, and that end result is more like Christ. But count it all joy, for Christ is not finished with us yet. He's at work in us. Eternity is coming. Don't give up. Don't give in. Don't quit, because God has something far better for us than we can imagine. And we need to remind ourselves of that. We need to preach that to ourselves each and every day. We need to be reminded that this earth is not our home. When we focus on the trials as if they are an interruption, when we focus on the difficulties and they just go away, what we're really doing is focusing on this earth as our home, and I need to be as comfortable as I can, which none of us are ever promised. But if we have our eyes set on eternity, it puts everything else into perspective. When we have our eyes set on Christ, it puts everything in this world in perspective. So I hope that's a challenge to you and an encouragement. It is to me, and it's something I need to be reminded of as well. So have a blessed night. and a good rest of the week. We'll see you back on Thursday with a video preparing us for Sunday. And I hope that you continue to get into the scriptures, reflect on these things, and meditate on them. Have a wonderful night.